Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today, inshallah, we will take 10.3 regulating cell cycle. Let's start with our objectives today, which is describe how the cells are regulated and explain how the cancer cells will be regulated. Okay, let's start from the topic regulation. What do you mean by regulation? When we say regulation, we mean the regulation that will happen inside the cell. Last lecture we took the cell division and the process of cell division, and we said that the cells need to divide and replicate. So what will regulate this replication? What will regulate the process, entire process? So there is something in the cell that will regulate this process. So inshallah today we will take all of the regulators that we can take in this class, okay? So inshallah we will start with controlling the cell growth in the beginning. So control on the cell growth and division can be turned on or off. Sometimes the cell need to turn on the cell regulation, the cell growth, and sometimes the cell need to turn off the cell growth. When we need the cell to grow, we will initiate the growth, and when we need the cell to stop, we need to stop this process, okay? As an example, if there is a bone fracture, okay, how the cell will heal this fracture? So when an injury such as a broken bone occurs, cells are stimulated to divide. What will stimulate the cell to divide rapidly and start the healing process? Inshallah that we will take it in the lesson, okay? The rate of the cell division slows when the healing process nears to complete. So in the beginning, the healing process rapidly, but at the end the cell healing will decrease until the whole healing is finished or completed. Let's take one of the examples on the cell regulators or growth regulators, which is the cyclins. The cyclin, it's a protein. As you can see, this is the 3D structure of the protein, which is the cyclins, which is one of the regulators in the cell that is found in the cell, okay? The cyclin, which is proteins that regulate the cell cycle, feed eukaryotic cells. So it's in the eukaryotic cells. If you look at this picture or this diagram, this is the cyclin concentration on the y-axis, while the minutes after fertilization in the egg in the x-axis. Okay, here in the minutes and here in the concentration. After a while, as you can see, the cyclin concentration will increase and then it will go down. Increase, go down. As you can see, it will increase all of the time in the mitosis phase, okay? So the graph shows how cyclin levels change throughout the cell cycle in fertilized clam eggs. As you can see here in the mitosis, the cyclin concentration is higher than interphase, okay? So in the mitosis, the cell needs to grow, so the cyclin will increase in concentration. Other proteins or other regulatory proteins, we have two types of regulatory proteins. The first one, internal regulators, and the second one is external regulators. We will start with internal regulators, which are responding to events inside the cell. There is an event inside the cell, and these internal regulators will act according to these, or will respond according to these events. And these regulators will allow the cell cycle to proceed only once certain process have happened. Specific process will happen, then the internal regulator will be activated or work. The other part of the regulator, which is external regulators, which respond to events outside the cells. So there is an event inside the cells and events outside the cells. And these regulators will start when anything will happen outside of the cell. As an example of the positive regulators, when there is a cell and there is a positive regulator, the mitosis will initiate and the cell will divide. While if there is a negative regulator, the mitosis will not happen. Another thing that's happened in the cells, and it's related to the regulation, which is the apoptosis. Apoptosis means the programmed cell death. What do you mean by programmed cell death? We know what we mean by death, but programmed cell death, which is when the cells are programmed to die for the benefits of other cells, okay? As an example, this is the frog leg, foot, okay? And there is a tissues here. If you look at these pictures, you will find that the fingers here are clear compared to the first one. So according to the apoptosis, the cells will die here to form or to shape the structure of the feet or of the frog feet, okay? So the foot of the mouse is shaped the way it is partially because the toes undergo apoptosis during tissue development. So according to the tissue development, the cells will die here according to apoptosis or programmed cell death. So the toes will take its shape like this. Another thing, which is another objectives for our lecture, which is the cancerous cells. As we know, the name cancer or the word cancer mean the unstopped growth of cells or tissues. Cancer is really harmful disease, and the cancer is a disorder that will happen in the cells. The cells will not stop growthly. The cell will start the growth and will not stop the growth until no limits, okay? So the cell will start the growth and growth with division without stopping, okay? So again, the cancer, which is disorder in which body cells lose the ability to control the cell growth. So it will lose the ability to control the growth. So there is no controlling over the growth. There is no regulators here, okay? As you can see here in the picture, this is a colon. This is descending colon here. And this is the stage 1 cancerous cells. Stage 1 cancerous cells, the growth is small, but you can see here it's irregular growth. It's not like the surrounding tissue, the colors, the shape, the orientation, all of the things that, or the characteristics here, it seems to be irregular, okay? This is the second stage 2. As you can see, the growth it didn't stop. And here in the stage 3, there is a differentiation in the cells here, huge growth, huge difference in the structure of the colon. So cancerous cells divide uncontrollably to form a mass of cells called tumor, okay? So here and even here we can say on the cancerous cells a tumor because there is a huge mass, okay, on the tissue. And cancerous cells, or cancer in general, can be classified into 2 types. The first one, which is called benign tumor. What do you mean by benign tumor? Benign tumor, which is non-cancerous tumors, okay? Non-cancerous, it means it's a good one. It will not affect the surrounding tissue, like this one, as you can see. It's a benign tumor, okay? Here in this case, it will not affect the surrounding tissue. So it doesn't spread to surrounding healthy tissue. It's here, okay? It's uncontrollable growth for a short time, but the cells will not affect the surrounding tissue. While the other type of tumor, which is the malignant tumor, which is the cancerous one, is spread and destroy the surrounding healthy tissue. The tumorous cells or the cancerous tumor cells will destroy the surrounding tissue, okay? What will cause the cancer? What is the main cause for the cancer? There is many causes for the cancers, and there is unknown cause, but for now, caused by defect in genes. What do you mean by defect in genes that regulate the cell growth and division? As we mentioned before, the cells will undergo the regulation process, okay? While here, the cancerous cells, there is a defect in the gene that will affect or regulate the cell growth. So the cells will growth uncontrollably, so the cells will not stop the growth, okay? These causes include smoking. So one of the causes for the cancerous cells or the defect in the gene is the smoking. So please, guys, try to avoid smoking tobacco. Radiation exposure, the people that affected with the radiation for a long time will be affected with this problem. Defective genes, sometimes it's about just the gene is defect, and viral infection. Some viral infection, by the way, could cause the cancer, okay? Also, a damaged B53 gene is common in cancerous cells. So if you want to check if the person is affected or having a cancerous cells, we will check this B53 gene, which is sometimes, if it's damaged, it will cause the cancerous cells to develop. Also causes cells to lose the information needed to respond to growth signals. As we know, there is a growth signals like the growth hormones which initiate the growth. So these cells, the cancerous cells, will stop responding to these growth signals. For the cancer, it's really a hard disease. It will affect the people in really bad way. So the scientists and the medical field, all of the medical field, try to treat the cancerous cells. So there is many treatment for the cancerous cells, starting from the localized tumors. For the localized tumors, can be removed by surgery, localized small tumors, non-spreadable one. And other tumors, we can use the radiation, some types of radiation that will kill or at least inhibit the growth of the tumor. And chemotherapy, which is known to a medication that will be used to kill or at least slow the growth of the cancerous cells. Which is really hard for the patients to have these treatments, but it will reduce the effect of the cancerous cells. Let's make now a review for our lecture. The first question: when might cell growth be stimulated? When might cell growth be stimulated? When injury or growth. So the cells will stimulate it to growth in two cases or many cases, especially injury and growth. In the kids, the growth will be initiated more than the adults, okay? In injury, like the broken bone, scratches on the skin, and so on. The next question: which protein regulates the cell cycle in eukaryotics? Which protein regulates the cell cycle in the eukaryotics? Which is the cyclins, okay? Which regulator would prevent anaphase from happening before prophase? Which is internal regulator. You have to memorize this information, which is the regulator that prevents the anaphase from happening before telophase, prophase, which is the internal regulator. And what is an example of external regulator, which is growth factors or growth hormones. What is the apoptosis? As we mentioned before, the apoptosis, which is the programmed cell death. During cancer, cells lose the ability to to respond or to control the cell growth. And finally, what type of a tumor is non-cancerous? What type of a tumor is non-cancerous, which is the benign tumors. Okay, for now, thank you for listening and have a nice day.